I remember when I was 10 and I saw this movie fully for the first time with my dad. Before, I mainly stuck with cartoons, kids' movies, and the Disney Channel. This I remember being my first R-rated movie and where my love for movies start. Also, being 30 years old, this was probably the best year for films. This movie, Tarantino Pulp Fiction, Jim Carrey being on fire with back-to-back hits. I don't think I really need to justify that this movie is worth the praise, the awards, the accolades. Hang on. Just because something is good doesn't mean it can't be discussed, because this is many types of films in one. Kids' first R-rated movie that succeeded but failed at the box office, a movie for filmmakers. I always love to dissect what makes a film other than just a generic response like these. I like to be precise and know exactly what makes something tick, or at the very least, get it. So starting off, this is one of the ways to get across information to the audience without having someone narrate to them directly. We come to see Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, sitting in the driveway of his cheating wife. This is actually a good start because they don't know the crime, only the sentencing. So you don't actually know if he committed the crime or not. We cut to the prison and get a look at our gaggle of characters. The main one being Morgan Freeman, playing Red. Speaking of Red, I never read the original book that goes under the same name, but Rita Hayworth gets top billing. They did go under this name at first, but then it was recommended to shorten it to Shawshank because the name kinda gives it away. It was also because actors were calling to play Rita Hayworth when she's literally just a picture in the movie. Anyway, Morgan plays Red in the movie and doubles as the narrator. This movie is probably what cemented Morgan Freeman's voice into the public consciousness.
Beautiful bird flapped into our drab little cage and made those walls dissolve away. And for the briefest of moments, every last man at Shawshank felt free.
It's a good thing this was made in the 90s, because in today's social media hyper-focused fixation on casting, you probably would have a culture war debate online about Morgan Freeman being Red. Originally, Red was an Irishman, a white Irishman, but Freeman did such a good job at the audition, the director really did want him fresh off of Driving Miss Daisy. I will always bring up this movie as an example of being able to race swap characters. Some people will argue that a movie adaptation has to be one for one. There can never be any deviation. They do include a nod to him being white.
Red. Why do they call you that?
Maybe it's because I'm Irish.
Andy Dufresne shows up to the prison with other prisoners, and you see the freshman initiation. Hi there, son. You get a rundown of them entering and being processed through the prison. Eventually, the darkness does set in, literally, when Fatty is breaking first, and then gets promptly beaten. Another filmmaking quirk I would call it, no matter how much you try to detach yourself from a TV show or movie, you will insert yourself into the project in some way or another, whether it be through directing, writing, or maybe technique. The director didn't want to make it super gruesome bloody movie, but didn't want to take the Greek tragedy approach and have it off screen. So, being 1994, he actually tried to make an imitation of Rodney King beating from 1991. Make it a wide shots, no close-ups, only reaction cuts. You were there, watching this man die, and letting the audience know that prisoners or guards can kill you at any time. All of this was established within the first 20 minutes. Next day, you do get a feel for the prison, where everything kind of sits. This prison was actually set to be demolished, but the film managed to get them before they could and delay it. You could actually still visit it today, but the smaller buildings in the back are gone. For the interior shots, the mess hall, warden's office, and the library later on were filmed there on location, and according to the director, it was absolutely filthy. The prison cells were actually built at a warehouse with 4 floors with adjustable walls for certain shots, and outside shots were just whatever exterior shots they needed around the area. Anyway, we get an introduction to all of Red's friends, some being young, middle-aged, or old. This is where they find out the guy's first night here and he's already dead, and Andy asks what his name was. A very profound question here. Everybody wants to be remembered, and in prison, that luxury is stripped from you. You are nothing but a number in a prison that can be killed at any time, and no one will care. So Andy gets a feel for the prison, how the pecking order works, what the rules are, both written and unwritten. Andy runs into Private Drake, who, along with the other sisters, demonetize him. They eventually get a job outside the prison, both for money and a change of scenery. Also, not as much demonetization. This part on the roof establishes two things. First, narratively, this is where Andy earns the respect of everyone. Approaching the guard is shown you never ever do, or to not do what they say. The guard almost killing him when he was just being given tax advice from after overhearing his conversation from earlier. And not only surviving, but getting beard afterwards for the crew. The second is for filmmaking. Would it surprise you to know that this movie does have CGI? But not for anything big or noticeable, but the subtle kind. The only CGI used was to remove the harness from the roof scene. That I think is the best use for it. Not only does it look better when everything is actually real and have weight to it, but less post-production cost. Because of Andy's skills in accounting, he is proving a valuable asset to the prison and the warden. They take revenge on Private Drake after beating Andy up. Again, another wide shot, no close-ups and no cuts. He also won the favor of the roofing crew and got him some gifts, including a bunch of rocks and that Rita Hayworth poster. The thing with adaptation is while you are bound to the source material, there are ways to let your vision get across. This is Brooke's story. This part was never in the book. It was just a sentence saying that he leaves and they never hear from him again. This part you see the tragic reality of a lifetime of basically being told what to do and when to do it. Nice bit of social commentary for when prisoners are released. You're used to everything being taken care of, and after a lifetime of strict regiment, you don't know what to do with yourself. And being in a new world as an old man with not that many years left, do you really want to spend the rest of the time feeling like a stranger in a foreign land? Forgot to mention, in exchange for the free tax services, he gets to work in the library where Brooke used to work. They start setting up an office here for him to work at, and, in an act of defiance, he sees a record player and starts playing a record that earns him time in the hole. Why he do it? To take back part of his humanity. Give the place a little hope. Hope is a dangerous thing. We get a bit of passage of time here with a 10-year anniversary poster, new land development, new prisoners. The director also wanted subtle ways to show the passage of time without creating a timeline or giant text saying when we are. Yeah, you have the note, but he also got the point across with a few changing of the season shots, the fact the uniforms change from stripes to jeans, and subtle makeup for aging. Again, to distract oneself, people will take up projects. The project is this guy trying to get his GED. After studying and talking, they find out that Andy might actually be innocent. And that's another subtle detail, the fact that these guys are spending decades in jail. Well, yeah, Andy is innocent. Pretty sure the rest of them are not so innocent. They never go into detail of why they are there. Could have killed someone, could have stolen money, or maybe smoked some reefer and got that mandatory minimum sentence. It does expose the corruption of the prison, how they could decide how long you spend in jail, and it doesn't matter what the charge is. Anyway, Andy tells the warden who doesn't want to lose his free accountant, sends Andy to the hole. Also, being a Stephen King book, have to have that hypocritical religious authority figure. Hi, warden. While in the hole, warden kills his student thinking that will make him compliant, but it only emboldens him. Waiting for the opportune moment, Andy tells Red about an island he'd love to go to before turning in for the night. Morning comes around, everyone is expecting a sight, but find nothing. Trying to figure out, this leads us to this famous shot of the movie. Like in chess, all the pieces line up, the hammer, poster. We see where this all leads us, and at last Andy is free and gives us our money shot. Which I will say, was a much better escape plan than his plan B.
Welcome back, Philzy! Thanks! It's great to be back, Howard!
After that, we wrap things up with Red finally getting out of the prison. Thank you, son. The bad guys getting their comeuppance, Red going to the tree, going to the island, and finding Andy. So that's the story. So why do people remember it? One reason, luck, because of when it came out, it didn't do so well at the box office. My guess, with it being October, people looking for more high-octane action and spooky movies, this is definitely a more mature type film. Plus being R-rated probably didn't help. But there is a redemption to this film. It made its profit back through VHS sales. And because VHS kept them in people's mind months after it came out, a film kept alive by word of mouth The 90s is definitely a time for movies, because if your movie did well on VHS, you could make your profit back. This allowed the studios to take more risk with the type of movies that were made, and thus a more diverse selection of films. I think the other reason is simply just because it was more down-to-earth film. I think this is one of the handful of Stephen King books that aren't about serial killers, magic, the supernatural, psychic, or anything like that. Not dissing the magic stuff, but if a film writes itself into a corner, they either make someone really dumb or use a deus ex machina. And it honestly probably endured because it did address one thing that rarely comes up: men showing genuine love for one another. As a man, it is hard to make friends or even show affection because you don't want to come off as creepy, weird, deceptive, or any other number of negative adjectives. Or being a movie where a man shows affection for another man, and it's from both ends, where one will say being gay makes you weak versus shipping you with every other male character.
Yeah, they're together?
Yeah.
They do know we're brothers, right?
Doesn't seem to matter.
Oh, come on, that...
But yeah, Shawshank Redemption is a powerful movie that definitely earned its legacy even 30 years later. So much so that I would recommend it on Blu-ray, just so to have a physical copy. I think that would be my highest score I could give a film. Get an actual copy, physical copy of a movie. As for the rating, I give it a supreme pizza. Yeah, not a lot of people will like it, and it may not be the most complicated. It does bring the homies together to have a good time. Plus, you know guys, they'll eat anything, and a lot of it on rewatch. What movies would you want me to do later on? Old? New? Anime? Since it's been 10 years and never saw it, maybe Over the Garden Wall. But yeah, let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, whatever. You know the drill. In the meantime, I need to know what is wrong with this child.